Attention gamers, previously on my attempt to play safe and stay alive in hardcore WoW, I took my weapon off during the last boss of a 5-man dungeon that I did with 3 people. I beat a multi-year rank 1 player in a bare knuckle beatdown before developing a crush on the chick who has proven multiple times that Tyler 1 is a true lady killer. I fought in the civil war between tribes by teabagging the leader of the Ginger Blood Scalps while interrogating every last one in an attempt to find my barber buddy's kidnapped son before joining forces with a hunter who felt eerily familiar to discover that an outcast by the name of Zanzel would need to be executed in order to end this war. Now Zanzel the outcast is no joke, as many guildies last year were strangled by the thorns of this veil when attempting to fight him because he throws a wooden dildo in the ground that spawns a small army, making him one of the deadliest mobs in the area. But he didn't know who he was messing with. The guy who wrangled the deadliest panther in the forest alone. Turns out halfway, and when I failed to put on a band-aid I had to run, only to think the son of the hardcore avatar would never back away, so I came back and just to discover that I can keep this tabby more stunned than a young EDP 445 expecting cupcakes.
Using a bow ruins the one-arm RP Maj.
And that lets me chug some liquid confidence and delay a bit for cooldowns. And win a fight against a cat by being the bigger pussy. Zanzel may be the leader of these trolls, but he was about to deal with the reason there's not gonna be another Jurassic Park sequel. This is where I met 2 Roddies, Elixir of Diddy and Cup of Cosby from the guild 5 Nights at Diddy's. Based off their names I figured these 2 wouldn't be the type to ask questions, so I told them I need to kill the blue one alone, and after studying the streams of my sweaty WoW ancestors, here is how I did that.
Shooting bow with one arm was epic. How are you using a bow with one hand? If you have one arm, how do you hold the bow? Wouldn't throwing knives be more ideal since it's used with one arm? A one-armed rogue can use a bow? How? Had no one spoken about the fact that he is using a bow? And how that functions with one hand? How can you shoot bow with one hand? One-armed bow user. Are you not technically using 2 hands when you shoot a bow? Sounds like cheating to me. How do you use a bow with one hand? One-arm rogue using a bow broke my immersion. How are you using a bow with one hand? Bro, you can't use a bow as a one-handed troll. So, you're RPing as a one-armed troll who can use a bow. How does that work last time I checked? Bro, why are you using a bow with a broken hand? You can't use a bow with one arm for a troll with only one good arm. He sure is good at using a bow.
Okay, this is just lazy writing. Never in the history of the world has someone shot a bow while missing an arm.
But he held it together. So for another perfect score. Here goes Matt.
So yeah, Zanzel may be able to summon others at his command, but I too had the respect of others around me. I mean, but he didn't realize that he was being stalked by he who slayed the deadliest tiger in the area. This was slightly complicated, as the plan was to kite him to some ramp where I could abuse classic WoW shitty code to confuse his little NPC GPS when he types in my dead ass as the destination, but this proved to be complicated. The first attempt at this I managed to invite one of his nephews to the show, and then every time I would turn around there would be another. I tried to deal with the litter, but give the HR department at Tiger Town credit, they would find replacements almost instantly. The very next pull I managed to wrangle the zebra cat to the place where I could play this like a grade A pussy, but little did I know his kids pop out like Chris Hansen, which means Cup of Cosby and Elixir of Diddy definitely wouldn't be helping, but also that I would be failing again. Considering this was hardcore, a normal person would have just given up knowing that the Cincinnati Zoo comes out at 50%, but I was determined and nothing was going to stop me on my next attempt.
I'm out of ammo. Fuck me, mom.
Turns out what happens at a Diddy party is that they inform you that thrown weapons are better for this kind of kiting, which means the whole fail RP bow stint that I used just to bait comments out of classic Andes to drive engagement on my YouTube videos was actually holding me back, and this was going to be way easier. That is until S fans left testicle randomly came in and decided to be the good Samaritan and help, which not only ruined my glory but it also ruined my plan on how to deal with the little kitty cat, so I had to reset for one last attempt. And that's the story of how I became a big gay hunter that was offered 2 rewards that I would never use, because after all, a one-armed rogue can't shoot a bow. But with that, it was time for the final showdown, with the moan threatening our tribe. In hindsight, my father did this butt-ass naked with a thrown weapon, so I should have known it'd be easy, but it's worth noting that I did find that one troll's son, the reason we went down this tribal World War rabbit hole. Turns out he was a dick, so I killed him. But then it was time to part ways with my cheering section. For legal reasons I can't say we were ever friends, but I can say that you two taught me so much. Like how snowballs can actually save you from fall damage in this game. You see, during the holiday event that turns you into a festive member of the superior faction, you can go into the mountains where there will be an elite Grinch. Don't fight him, as he can repetitively stun you for 5 seconds at a time, and I may or may not have had a close call there, but it's here where you can loot piles of snowballs. Using these typically just makes it look like you creamed yourself, but if you are in a party they have a whole different effect. These never expire and thus can be used at any time to ensure a smooth landing so that you never grayson yourself unexpectedly. And so I bid a final farewell to the lessons learned from Cup of Cosby and Elixir of Diddy, and it was time to move on. To the night I was trading random shit to the local bartender to fuel my alcohol addiction when I hit an important milestone, which meant it was time for some shopping. This meant that I would be able to travel with the utmost swiftness both on ground and through the skies.
You haven't lived until you've looked down on the world from the back of
But for as fast as I could travel, my kill times were slow, so I had a plan. I would sneak into a fortress and for hours I would level up my ability to open boxes. You see, I read that the best dagger in the game at my level drops from one of these boxes, so I collected dozens with the plan to give you guys the most epic unboxing in WoW YouTube history. But without a good weapon for my one good arm at this level, groups didn't want to bring me along as dungeons were getting harder and I was just a handicap. Even when I would convince others to do hard quests with me, they would just shit themselves and almost die, opting to bail on a fight that we could have clutched if they didn't have Roach bound to every key, then flat out leave the group when we could go straight back in and get our glory, only for me to find out they were talking shit about me behind my back. I had achieved villain status, and for the first time I knew how McConnell felt.
I really support you and your one-armed dream, because I watch all your videos, man.
But then I learned about the one thing that would get me into groups. The one thing that would make me want it.
I want to run CF and we actually need someone with a mallet today.
The one thing that every group at my level needed. And that's when I decided, I was going to get the mallet of Zul'Farrak. Now this is normally something people do in large groups because step 1 involves infiltrating a large heavily guarded staircase where a level 50 elite priest perches at the top. I first had to deal with her Senjin Secret Service staff. And then I was ready for the first attempt against her, which proved to be more difficult than I expected. But you know my motto? What happens at a Diddy party, stays at a Diddy.
Health warning.
Shit, I forgot about that one.
And that would give me the base of the sacred mallet, but to turn it into the mallet that all groups need I would have to take it to the altar of Zul. Atop a mountain full of hundreds of elites, guarded by stealth detecting wolves that are hard to kill by the most prepared of groups.
Oh my god, last month you're taking so much damage.
But this was a mission for me and me alone.